This is very important because it was decided beforehand to remove the sidebar, and it allows without any customization, it can easily be incorporated into your software and websites for filming people. Because you see, it's just a rectangle with only the document to record, nothing
of a signature. So you upload the document, you can choose a signature title and also a description, which is not mandatory. Now I will give an example of a signature. Here I will specify the email. This part here is equivalent to the authentication mentioned earlier. Here I can choose whether I have the OTP via email or through SMS. I add a signature, and here I can select where to sign. For instance, this is the first page. I can choose to sign at this point, or I can go ahead and sign the third page, and opt to sign in the same location.
Good afternoon and welcome to the new OpenAPI webinar. Today we will talk about e-signature APIs. This is our 8th webinar of 2025. It's a year that has seen us present at many online events. We have sponsored many live events, including Codemotion in Rome and Milan, showing our commitment to supporting various local and international initiatives. At Milan's SMAU in November. In June at Viva Technology in Paris, and in November at Web Summit in Lisbon. And finally, the Digital SME from Brussels. Then, at the end of this presentation, we will discuss the upcoming events of 2026 that we will be attending. Today, alongside me, Matteo di Giacomo from the marketing division, our developer Giovanni will also be present with us, which actually developed the simple electronic signature. Okay, let's continue. Before diving into the core of the webinar, as usual, we'll briefly update you on the recently released and upcoming new features. We have released new services, including Posta Massiva Top, which, in contrast to regular Posta Massiva, stands out as it is a service that utilizes certified printing and a fully automated packaging process. All of this is backed up by an optical character recognition system, utilizing advanced methods to thoroughly validate the correctness of each submission. We have the ultimate beneficial owner, the certified IDV, who is the same as the expert. But video identification adds a greater level of complexity and therefore complies with the stringent regulations, AML rules. We have 3 RAG services, which we discussed in the previous webinar, namely RAG search with answer, and RAG conversation, which you can find in our AI category. Additionally, we have also brought some new features to the console. We have added, and many of you might already know and be using it, 2 tabs in every product: the callback tab and the error tab. So you can check all the anomalies and calls you have made, and the history will remain in memory for 31 days. What exactly are we going to be releasing over the next few weeks? Monitoring Italian companies, so with one call you can be alerted to any changes in companies. This is the Phone Advanced, which is different from the Phone API. Because with only a single phone call, you are able to check both the mobile number and the fixed line. So with one call, you check both the numbers. We will bring more news to the console, such as multi-user support. The SMS feature will be available globally and tailored for each country. Search company will become global. We will also monitor credit scores here and introduce new services for the MCP OpenAPI. Today we will talk about simple electronic signatures, the differences with advanced and qualified signatures, how to tailor the graphical interface, which is interesting as you can insert your logo and brand colors, thus allowing you to fully customize it with your brand. We will explore how it integrates and the suggested case studies for using simple electronic signatures. So, what is it and how do its characteristics operate? The simplest electronic signature is also the most popular. The simple electronic signature adheres to the eIDAS regulation and ETSI standards and is perfectly aligned with the GDPR. How do the main features operate? The process must begin prior to the signature. At the start of the process, I can choose how to personalize my signature. If we provide one or two types of signatures, we can decide whether to allow the Tari signature to sign with the signed signature, the one you also use on paper documents where it will place the signature on the tablet, or the digital signature with a set font. We can decide whether to manage the document with multiple Tari signatures, specifically the interface with colors. We can then upload the document we need to sign via API. The download can be at the end of the process. The document can be downloaded via API or through the web app. This document will be available for 3 months. Additionally, there is also the audit trail of the document so that all can be verified. The info that led to the successful signature. The audit trail is available for up to 10 years and stored as per regulations. The signature is made in real time. You can also verify whether a document was signed and if it was signed properly. One of the most interesting things is customization. This is the list of things you can customize in your interface. So the logo and the color, about the sidebar's background, the side area where our document's information is located, the color of the title and text, also of the sidebar, the background color of the footer. This is where the buttons are located for signing, moving forward in the procedure, or returning. The headers, title, and text located at the top. The color of the buttons, and an important aspect is that a redirect screen can also be inserted whether the process goes to KO or to bunker. This is the basic example, which means if you leave your customizations untouched, this is what you will observe. As you can see in this part here, which is the sidebar, there is the option to download the original file. So you can check if it is the correct file you uploaded, and of course this is not an image, but you can scroll through the document and view it. This is placed here but remains part of the signing process. When you initiate the process, you can choose where to position the signature field, either here or here. At the bottom, basically wherever you want. Here is all the information for those who are about to sign. So in this case, the Red Sea has only one signer, but there can be others as well. The authentication, this is the OTP we mentioned earlier, which can be via email or SMS. Here it was selected by email with the creation date, file size, and 4 verification steps. Not all of them are fast. Then later, let's say we would see how it is done in reality, how they are executed. This is an example tailored to your needs. As you can see, we included a logo. The sidebar background has been changed and the button colors adjusted slightly. The header and footer colors have been changed, and for the rest, it remained the same. Even the signing area stayed the same. The third example. This is very important because it was decided beforehand to remove the sidebar, and it allows without any customization, it can easily be incorporated into your software and websites for filming people. Because you see, it's just a rectangle with only the document to record, nothing more. Let's see the differences between simple, advanced, and qualified signatures. You can tell something just from the names. Anyway, the simple one is what we're doing now. It's the most basic and popular. But even though it's the simplest, it still has a verification process despite being basic. With OTP verification through email or text message, it still has a verification of the signer, which gives it compliance with eIDAS, ETSI, and GDPR. What is a simple signature recommended for? For low-risk documents such as consents, estimates, and onboarding. The Advanced Electronic Signature, or OAS, is a signature with a higher level of signer verification. So it's a more robust signature and can be used for film processes which are medium to high risk, like insurance documents, B2B transactions, and finance. Now let's talk about the qualified signature, which, as the name indicates, is the highest level. It's similar to a handwritten signature. It is valid in the entire EU and certifies the signer completely, and it is used for legal acts, for documents of high relevance with regulatory obligations like banking or notarial acts or others. The SCS signature is primarily utilized for the signing of estimates, orders, or service confirmations, used for forms, for the workflow, perfectly fits into CRMs, portals, apps, or for signing contracts. Essentially, it is a signature with a low to medium risk and in real time. Why opt for our signature? Firstly, it offers a highly advantageous cost, it is extremely beneficial, and by allowing our clients to sign online, we also cut down on paper and shipping, avoiding the need to send a package for signing, which can be done directly online, thus enabling a faster, more efficient management of signatures and contracts. A fast time to market due to its quick integration, a genuine and seamless experience as it is mobile friendly, it is a fluid signature, essentially it is everything. Conforming to the latest usability standards, it is a process, as we have seen and will see, very fast with 4 quick steps. It complies, as we said, with eIDAS, ETSI, and is GDPR compliant. It is also suitable for signing, being very fast, ideal for signing many documents. I want to emphasize again that there is a verification process for the signer using OTP, which can be completed via email or SMS. Thus, there is a control over who signs and the personalization of the interface. Where can we meet in 2026? These are 3 or 4 major events that will happen to us. Before I pass the word to our developer Giovanni, I want to remind everyone that if you joined late, from tomorrow you can watch the video on our YouTube channels. We'll catch up later after Giovanni's explanation for questions.
Thank you, Matteo. Now I will proceed to share the documents. Perfect. Okay, so the endpoint you need to call to use this service is as follows. Here you can see an example of the body. You can see that there is an array of one or more signers because it can indeed be signed by multiple people. For each signer, it is essential to provide the first name, last name, and email, the phone number, and each signer will also have an array of all the possible signatures they need to make on the document in question. You can also specify the document, which can be a URL or a PAS64, the callback object, along with other various options that I would examine more closely on the screen that is much more detailed. So for each signer, you will need to provide, as I said before, the name and surname. The email address and phone number are required based on the type of authentication you wish to carry out. That is, if you want the individual signer to authenticate with the email, it will be necessary to provide the email. On the other hand, if you want them to authenticate through SMS, you will need to provide a phone number and a mobile number. Next, another very interesting aspect is the message. This will be a personalized message for the individual signer in which, if you indicate this specific placeholder, it will be replaced inside the message. A brief note concerning SMS messages cannot be longer than 160 characters.
Sorry, Giovanni, they asked if you could enlarge the console screen a bit to see better.
Even further. So we were saying name, surname, email, phone number, message, and signatures. This is the area for signatures that will be marked with the page and various coordinates of the specific signature for each individual signature. Next, the document. The document can be transmitted as a simple URL or with the classic base64 format. The callback object should be a URL where updates regarding the signature status will be sent, because by default, as shown here in a response example, the signature will be in this state awaiting validation, since the document validation is performed synchronously to speed up the system. After that, we can discuss the options, specifically those related to the UI, where you can, as previously stated, indicate various different colors for the UI, making it customizable. Every single color needs to be indicated as shown in the examples here in decimal S. The logo, which, as Matteo pointed out earlier, will appear in the top left corner. If not specified, the OpenAPI logo will be used. The same logo, if you choose to indicate it, will be shown in the email if you use email for authentication, which will be received by the signer. You also have the possibility, as mentioned earlier, to hide headers, the sidebar and the buttons for downloading the document. The sidebar header, if you choose to hide it, the logo will clearly not be visible. You can hide the buttons for downloading the document you have uploaded. Once signed, if you deem it more appropriate. With this option, you can enable viewing the web app inside a frame just by passing the domain. These last two options allow, if you do not specify them, there won't be many related buttons. If specified, you will allow the user, once the procedure is completed, to open a complete procedure button to be displayed at the URL you will indicate in this option. In a similar manner, this other option here, cancel URL, will allow the user who needs to sign to decline to sign. In that case, it will be displayed at the URL you specify in the option. The signing methods by default is typed, that is written. You can indicate if the more appropriate signer is also the drone, as the use case is to sign on a tablet, perhaps. You can indicate both once the indication has been provided for both. When the user enters the web app, they will have the option to choose how to sign, to use the typed one or to use the one traced with the finger. This other option here, by default, I have all set to true, all three. If you consider it more suitable, it allows you to stop the user from changing their name, phone number, or email account. By default, they are allowed to do this once they are in the web app for various reasons, but if you think it's better, you can stop them from doing it. In conclusion, you can specify the time zone, specifically one of these values here. By default, the time zone is the UTC time zone. Otherwise, if indicated in the final signature, the signature will have the time of the indicated time zone. Then this note is an example of the response body you will receive when you make this specific call. With the signature ID, you can use it. It might always be helpful to know. You can access this endpoint to retrieve both the audit trail and the signed document or what was uploaded. That said, I would move on to a more practical example, namely our signature playground. Now you will see how it is quite good. So, as you can see, more signers can be added, and they can also be taken out. For each signer, you can add more signatures, and I will show an example now of a signature. So you upload the document, you can choose a signature title and also a description, which is not mandatory. Now I will give an example of a signature. Here I will specify the email. This part here is equivalent to the authentication mentioned earlier. Here I can choose whether I have the OTP via email or through SMS. I add a signature, and here I can select where to sign. For instance, this is the first page. I can choose to sign at this point, or I can go ahead and sign the third page, and opt to sign in the same location. You can also add additional signatures if you wish. These are the colors that were referred to earlier. Here you would indicate the logo if you want to specify a custom logo. These are the options to conceal the sidebar, the header, or the buttons for document downloads. These are the URLs that need to be highlighted to guide the user. At the end of the procedure completion or in case of cancellation, here we have the time zone instead. I will also show you the example with both signatures so you can see the option to change the signatures. I will show the case where the signature is not indicated. If the signature is not specified, the signature will be placed in a default area, which will be at the top left. Now, I'm changing to the web app interface. As you can see, if the signature is not specified, the signature will be placed at the top left. This is the web app, and here is the sidebar we mentioned earlier with the button to download the document you uploaded. At the top right, there is the option to change the language. At this time, according to each person's needs. And finally, below here, the delete button should appear if indicated, if you proceed with the signature. This is the part I mentioned earlier about visiting the signature, in case the user is not allowed to modify this data. And it is indeed not possible to modify it, otherwise this is the part in case one wants to trace their signature. I will use this signature now. And now I will receive the OTP to finalize the process of this signature. Once the OTP is done, the actual signing process of the document takes place, which once completed will allow you to download the signed document, and if the URL is indicated, to complete the procedure of being directed to the specified URL. This is an example of the document that has been signed, which in the upper left corner shows the signature along with the time. I think it might be better to zoom in on it, with all the signature related information. I would mention that the demonstration is okay like this.
So we can go to the questions now. There is a question from David and Giovanni who asks us what the activity is. For example, he still uses the old digital signature API. So I respond, until what date is it possible to use it? Until the 31st of December 2026. So for those who still use it, one more year to switch to the new one. You should also switch as quickly as possible because the new one raises prices much more favorably compared to the old one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Giovanni. We are in the process of deprecating some APIs now. After the 31st of December next year, the digital signature API will cease to be maintained. Therefore, it is advisable for you to spend some time switch to the new one. Are there any expected changes in costs? No, if you keep using the digital signature API, the price will be unchanged for now. The new one has a more advantageous cost. After the 31st of December, we will see. At the moment, some of the APIs we are phasing out are experiencing a major price hike. So we suggest moving to the new one as soon as possible. Richard Ortiz, is it possible to have a business contact? Yes, I'll take your email and we will provide you with the contact of our sales team, who will get in touch with you in the next few days. It's actually their responsibility to do this anyway. Since you asked for it, we will send it to you. Hold on, you have a lot of questions. If you could then respond to this, Giovanni. If you see it, it is certainly...
I imagine you mean that the user who needs to sign chooses where to place the signature, and the answer is no. When the request is made, the signing points for each individual signer must be indicated in the request.
Then he asked if multiple files can be uploaded.
It is possible to upload several files. This is a pad signature type, meaning only PDFs can be used. You can upload several files, which will all be merged into one file. Ultimately, you will have as the signed document a single file for each individual file. Then I saw a question from Richard Ortiz asking about the font. At the moment, the font is a specific one, and there is no possibility to change it or indicate an alternative font.
This is part of the 2.0 package, where we will introduce new options later. Marco,
is it possible to test the sandbox in the console?
No.
I read that you can test the signature, and yes, you can do it in the console.
He wants to know what the prices are. In the Prices tab, simply scroll down and click to open the drop-down.
I am here. There is the Prices tab, and then the specific prices for the
You can bypass the pages where the signature is added. Signature. You can skip the pages where you insert the signature and send the OTP. Myself?
At the moment, I'm unable to specify the limits accurately, but we can respond to the limits.
Is asking for a business contact. He's writing down the email. Additionally, for anyone requesting information on the prices, there are also subscriptions that lower the price even more. Thus, you can add more than one signature placeholder in a document. Absolutely. You are able to insert various placeholders to address Federico's question. Whoever requests a business contact indicates who wishes to be
subsequently. Thus, RBTech is asking if they can add the signature selector to their site. I believe it's the red square that was shown earlier in the request. Ultimately, that is only to indicate the coordinates of the signature. If you integrate the API on your website, you obtain the coordinates similarly and then send them in the request. So the answer to the question is yes. If I got it right, obviously. I am retrieving the questions from the bottom. Marco, for the QS, the procedure is identical and the qualified signature is what was shown in another webinar, if I recall correctly. There is a distinct playground that allows you to use an automatic OTP certificate to sign. The procedure is very similar. However, clearly there is no web app because the signature is done directly. It is done directly with the service.
You are able to.
Elisa, yes, you can view the signed audit trade document. When you make the call, you will also receive the signature ID and I will display it again. Hold on a moment while I share that point again. So when you make the call, for instance, let's revisit the example of the assessment. After the request is made, you will receive a response body that includes the ID. With this ID, you can comfortably use this endpoint here, where instead of ID, you must indicate the signature ID, and with action type, you must specify the type of action. In the specific case for the audit trail, just indicate the audit and you will get the audit trail of the signature in question.
Add a text marker to apply the signature without indicating the coordinates.
The example I gave at the end, if the signature for the signer is not indicated, the default is placed at the top left. I guess that is the question.
If you possess.
Indeed, with Acrobat and a certified signature, functionality is available. Otherwise, we also have our own endpoint, which is verify. By passing the document as base64, you receive information regarding that document, which indicates whether the document is signed with a certified signature or not.
We are here for your needs, so feel free to reach out to us. We can arrange for someone from support or the tech team to call you for any info.
Yes, but I am recovering it gradually, little by little. Yes. I saw one that seems to be halfway. But I can't find the other half. Paolo Qualcone, if you can rewrite the entire question in one message because I can't recover the other part of the console halfway. I can't grasp it well. The question, I'm sorry.
We'll wait a few minutes and...
Yes, Giuseppe Cifarelli, the documentation is current. The documentation you can view on the console side.
If you want, there's a question from Ernesto that can be answered. How is signing priority managed with multiple signers?
With more than one signer, it continues until everyone completes the signing process. The other signers will stay in wait. I believe this responds to the inquiry. We might know at a later time if we note it for a response later.
Thanks to everyone for being here. Thank you for the questions asked, and we wish you all happy holidays, and we will see you again in 2026 with many more webinars. Good evening to all and happy holidays. See you later.